the University of North Carolina, and an organization that I'm a part of called the East Side Institute, which is an international center for research and education in progressive approaches to education, therapy, and politics. And we what it does is offer free classes like this and workshops, and eventually we hope storytelling circles and performances of all kinds, conversations that connect people all around the world. They're all free. All the teachers are volunteers, and they teach because they want to share what they know. They're excited about something, and people come out of curiosity. It doesn't have any grades. It doesn't give degrees. It's all about expanding your horizon. And our two teachers today are, come from those two different organizations, essentially. UX, which was an early school that was free in person before the pandemic. Dr. Nick Gross, who's our physicist and astronomer teacher today, worked at UX with me as a volunteer and did many innovative science classes there. And Purvi Sanghvi, thank you, is an alumni of the Lloyd Honors College and now a graduate student in Georgia. So Dean Omar Ali is going to tell you more about them, but that's essentially it. This is a great experiment. We're very happy that you're here. It's built by people telling other people about it. So if you enjoy today's class, please look on the website and see the other classes that are being offered this year and this semester, and tell your friends about it.
Great, thank you. So I have the pleasure of introducing our two teachers for today, but before we start, why don't you put your, in your name, where you are, okay? So just put where the city is and state, or if you're in a different country, you can put that. That'd be great to have in there just to get a sense of where folks are from. So today,
and Omar, can you tell us how to do that?
Sure. So you go into the three dots in your little square, right? In the top right-hand corner, you click on it, and then you can go down to rename, which is at the bottom. So that's how you do it. Thanks for that, Nick. Okay. So today's presentation, workshop, discussion is Science in Your Kitchen. And we have Purvi Sanghvi, who hails from Mumbai, India. And she is a PhD candidate in history at Georgia State University and a graduate of Lloyd International Honors College, UNC Greensboro, where she was a history student. She is looking in her dissertation now at the cultural and social aspects of food history and looking at the exchange between Western India, Gujarat, and Brazil and Portugal as part of sort of this Indian Ocean exchange. Then we have Dr. Nicholas Gross, who earned his doctorate in physics from Boston University and has been working on a variety of science education projects for over 2 decades. And he serves as a researcher of astronomy at Boston University. He's recognized as an expert in the development and delivery of interactive and engaging STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education programs for a wide variety of audiences. And Dr. Gross applies his improvisational approaches to help build inclusive learning communities that tackle learning challenges together. So with that, let me hand things over to Purvi and Nick.
Great, thanks, Omar. Purvi, you want me to do a little introduction?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So I think, before we get started, I want to do a little bit of an introduction about thinking about food and how you think about food, and then how Purvi and I think about food, and the different approaches. And then we'll do that, and then Purvi is going to cook a couple of dishes. When we originally started planning this, Purvi had an entire meal sort of laid out that we could have done, a full day class on, and I could have easily done a lot of science, but we realized that we had to pare it down, and we've got a yogurt rice dish, and then Purvi wants to show you how to make paneer, so fresh Indian cheese at home. And it's quite simple. I've done it myself, and I've taught in a course in at BU on the physics of food and cooking, and that's one of the labs that we have the students do. Is in a couple of hours make some fresh cheese. So so one of the things I'd like to know, I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I wanted to get from you all. Oh, I can't go full screen, so we'll just have to read the slides as they are. But what I wanted to know from you all was what your experience in cooking was. So, so you've got choices A through E, and just in chat, if you can just say which choice sort of best fits your experience of cooking. So do you really love cooking and you do it all the time? Or, on the other hand, okay, I've seen one E go past really quickly. Food just appears and I don't ask any questions, right? And so C or E, okay. I cook when I have to, and or food just appears, but then a lot of B's. So I like to cook and I cook occasionally. Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. As I said, today's recipes that we're going to look at are sort of the yogurt rice and all the various things that have to do for yogurt rice. It's a fairly simple recipe once Purvi explained it to me, and you'll see. But also then the paneer. All right. One of the other things that I'd like to hear from people maybe, and to start to talk a little bit is, and it's a big group, so maybe we can go by hands. So what? But actually, before we do that, maybe Purvi disappeared. So I'll tell you my answer to the question I'm about to ask, which is what's your sort of your like exposure to, what was your first exposure to cooking? How did you get into cooking? For those who cook, and so you can think a little bit about that. My first exposure was as growing up. I had my parents in the household. My mother sometimes was a little sickly, and so she had some back problems, and was also anemic growing up. And so sometimes she would not be able to go about doing the cooking for dinner. So my father would come home from work, and there'd be stuff to cook, and so I had a model then of a man cooking in the household, as not just my mother, and so that also then as I got bigger, I started helping out in the kitchen. My mother eventually we found some ways to help her out. But even then, I was helping out in the kitchen, and she always made a point of giving me a little task to do, and eventually I was cooking the whole meal. So, Purvi, do you want to say what your sort of experience getting into cooking was?
Yes, Dr. Gross. For me, when I grew up in Bombay at home and in a Gujarati family. So we usually used to have cooks, maids or cooks. When I was very young, we had like male cooks, Brahman, background. It was a Hindu thing, like Gujarati thing. So we had those cooks coming in, like, they used to stay 24 hours in the house. Food is a very big thing in our house, at least. It's like food is like, that is the most important thing. If you're having lunch, it's like, okay, what are we going to have for dinner? We are going to have dinner. So what are we having tomorrow? So it's like, it's very important. So I started cooking. I used to cook once in a while when we had, cooks or maids in the house and to do that. But I actually started cooking when I moved to US when I was studying to study, and I had to cook because that's the only way I could survive. And I liked it, and I experimented different things. I don't go out much to eat because I don't get good vegetarian food because I'm a vegetarian, and there is contamination happening in places like that. So I started cooking like that, and I had more time. It was therapeutic for me. After coming back from college, I used to cook, bake, whatever. I started doing all those things. So now then I got into I think the interest of food was so, and it also brings out the memories, right, from home, and that comfort food is always there then. So I started doing that, and then I went into food history because that was the only thing I could think about for history, and my professor introduced me to it, and I was like, I thought it was a joke when he said, that there is a thing called food history. So he said, no, it's serious. It is there. You can do that. And that is the way I just went into food history. And then the Portuguese came in because there are so many foods in India, I think, which are very similar to, or not just similar, but we have got it from the Portuguese, and we have assimilated or absorbed it into the Indian culture as well now. So that's the way I got into it.
Okay, so what I'll ask from the class is maybe you can think about one or two in a sentence or two, and we want to keep it short. I'm not going to have everybody say it, but maybe in a sentence or two in chat. How did you get into food? What was your experience cooking growing up? What was your sort of first experience? If somebody's brave enough to say it out loud, maybe they can raise their hand and say something. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm currently in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm part of the Lloyd International Honors College. And for me, food has been a big part of my life. So both of my grandmothers were really big cooks. And so both my mother and my father have both taken on like this idea that they want to cook as well. And it has become such a big thing for our family because both of my grandmothers cook for people as a way to like show their love. That is the way that they serve others. And they take that and they show that, and you can see how much pride they take in what they cook. And my mother and father do the same thing. And then I actually got to, so I would cook a little bit like as we grew up, but not a lot. And I loved like working with food and everything like that. So I ended up doing like a cooking class with my grandparents when we went to Maine, and we got to do a cooking class together. So getting to be with my grandparents who love cooking and then getting to share that passion with them. And ever since then, I love baking and everything.
Great. Thanks, Emma, for sharing. There's on the reactions button, if you want to say something, you can put your hand up, raise your hand on the bottom of the reactions button. So if anybody else wants to share, we can do one or two more stories of people sharing their cooking experience. So I see a lot of nice stories in the
chat.
Sorry, say.
There's so many stories in the chat.
Yes, there's a lot of nice stories in the chat. Yes, and so okay, so another vegetarian. So that which can be when you have food restrictions. Somebody else has an allergy restriction. Yes, Rachel, why don't you unmute yourself and get
yeah. Well, I'm the vegetarian actually.
Oh, okay.
So my mom went vegan when I was around like 10 years old. And so after that, she had to do a lot of cooking, like we weren't eating out as much. And so that exposed me. And then also my boyfriend currently is a chef. And so we spend a lot of time in the kitchen bonding, connecting with each other. And I've learned a lot from him. And it's just something that's really special to me now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rachel. All right, great. So, food is not only like just sustenance. It's also an opportunity to like be with family, to socialize, to do all these other things. I think Purvi started getting into the approach to food. You can approach understanding food in a lot of different ways. It can be an art form. Somebody mentioned, Gordon Ramsay. So it's both art and entertainment at the same time. It can be a social experience. It can be a way to bond with other people. You can approach it, and maybe Purvi will say a few more words about the historical approach. You can approach it from a history and culture understanding, or a literature understanding. My approach, I was interested in science from an early age. I was also always wanted to know why things worked the way they worked. What did they do at the fundamental level? So my approach is more of a scientific approach. I want to know what the sort of constituents of food are, and what they're made of. What are the molecules doing? What's happening when you raise the temperature of food? Why do you use certain cooking oil? I think this is something we'll get into. Why do you use cooking oils as opposed to water to cook certain foods? And we'll get into some of that, and ways to then measure that and quantify it, and try and really understand it and see how things work. When I put certain ingredients into a bowl, does the mass change, right? And so that's and if so, why does the mass change? Where am I losing mass? Where is it going? So that's the sort of scientist like approach to food and cooking, trying to understand, I wonder why, this thing, why do you get cheese from milk when you add an acid to it? So Purvi, I don't know if you want to say any more about your sort of like your study of food and how you approach that, and what about a little bit more about the culture.
I'm just beginning to understand what is food history now. So I should, because this is my last class, I have to do a class for research. So now I always thought since last 4 years, it's going to be easy. What is there? Like food history, of course, I know food, but it's not like that. There are a lot many things involved in it. And I'm interested in the social and cultural part of food, and the food ways, and the transmission of foods, exchanges of foods, how people were, and also the people are instrumental, right? To get the foods from all these different places and bringing it to some other place. And, then the people who are in that other colony or wherever, they are also including in their food, and their culture changes after that. So after generations, after centuries, then we always think that, that has always been there, but it's why. I'm interested in the why, how people did all this, and why did they do this? What kind of taste? It also depends on the taste. Like some foods are rejected, some foods are included in our Indian culture, Indian foods, or even in Brazilian, or the foods which have gone from India to Brazil or Portugal, how they have turned out now. So that is what I want to know, the beginning kind of thing. How did it happen? Who are the people? And things like that.
Okay, great, thank you. So why? I think this is what academics do. They go why, but sometimes the what follows the why. Why does in my case, why does milk? Why does what's happening physically to the milk? Why does the milk change its physical interpretation? And Purvi is asking why does the dish here, or the spice here, why is that used also over in this different place, and or something along those lines. So maybe quickly in chat, I think this will be our last piece of our introduction. Maybe you can put in some why questions. Maybe it's based on something that we've already discussed, or something that you think we might do, or just something we wondered about. about food. What's a why question that you have that is that we may or may not be able to answer, right? We certainly can't answer all of the questions today, but I'll give people a minute to do that. And Purvi, I don't know if you need to get anything started. And what are we doing first?
I've put the milk to boil right now, and we could start with the yogurt rice.
Okay.
So I'll start the mixing, and I'll change now the camera. It goes
That would
on.
be great. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's lots of good questions there so far.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Yes.
So I'm just going to show the masala box first, just for the fun of it, actually. So
Here, let me spotlight you. Okay. Yep.
yeah, so this is the kind of masala box that usually we have in our kitchens. So this is the mustard seed, the black one. I don't know if people want to even have a look like this, right? So this is mustard, this is fenugreek, this is the cumin and coriander powder, this is cumin, turmeric, and the red chili powder, and this is just red chilies. When you want to do some kind of tempering, you can use this whole, which is quite strong as well, which is quite spicy and hot.
So this is just a tray you have hanging around with all your spices in it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we usually keep
I
it.
won't say just it, but it's I didn't appreciate that that's what that was when I got served it at an Indian restaurant.
Huh? What did you say? Served
I-
at
When people have brought such a tray at an Indian restaurant, I'd appreciate what it was. So, but
oh, this is why would it be brought in a restaurant like this? Not the
I
masala
don't know.
box. It's a thali. That is a different thing.
Okay.
The thali is different. It has a kind of a tray like this, like thali like this, but it will have individual bowls, which is for the dal and the rice. That is a thali. That is different than the masala box.
Okay.
Because the masala box will usually have a cover to keep the aroma of the spices in.
Yeah.
Right? And it will be closed. It has to be closed. So this is the masala box, and this is the spices which I've readied for the yogurt rice. So this is the urad dal. I have rinsed it and kept it. This is coriander, curry leaves, and ginger. So we can start the tempering, but first I need to even mix the rice. Last night I had made some rice and kept. So we have to mix the rice and the yogurt in first, and then do the tempering. And the tempering is very quick, I'll do it with the ghee. So you'll have to give me a minute.
Okay, great. So, well, I can show one or two things while you're doing that. First off, so the dal I understand is we also call that lentils. And coriander, interestingly enough, I didn't realize this till a short time ago. Coriander and cilantro. So I always had coriander seeds, but I didn't realize they came from the cilantro plant. So we also call those leaves cilantro leaves here. I want to share one thing with you. So this tempering is an interesting process, and Puri, just interrupt me when you're ready to move on.
Okay.
So one of the important things, and I thought I had a pot of water boiling here. You might think, well, I can cook stuff in water, right? If I just boil water, and I didn't keep this going long enough. I should have just kept it going, but you can just boil water, and I can cook stuff in that because it just keeps getting hotter, right? So, but one of the important things about water or phase transitions in specific, when I change from water to vapor, is the temperature doesn't change as you go through that phase transition. So so if I got a pot of boiling water, I am guaranteed that it is at 100 degrees Celsius. And so I'm gonna just go up to this so you can see it's not as much of a show there. All right, great. So it's guaranteed to be 100 degrees Celsius, or on the Fahrenheit scale, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and on the Celsius scale, room temperature is 20 degrees Celsius, and body temperature is about 40 degrees Celsius. So 100 degrees Celsius, of course, is very hot. But it is not as hot as the oil can get. So what happens with oil is you can heat oil up, and it can also get very hot, but it can go above that 200 degrees, that 100 degrees Celsius mark, right? It can go up to 200, 220, 200, for sapphire oil, it'll be 265 degrees Celsius. So more than twice as high on the Celsius scale. So much higher than water. And so because of that, then you can also more easily cook things faster. You can more easily dissolve the essential flavor molecules that are in the seeds or in the spices, and get them out into the oil, because it's much hotter than that. So another example of this, and that went off. Let's see
Dr. Gross, we can.
Oh, yep. You ready to? Okay. Let's see what you got.
This is the ghee, which I'm going to put. This is homemade ghee my mom had given me this time. So, and it's made from cow's milk, not buffalo milk.
So ghee is like clarified butter. Is that right?
Clarified. Yes, it is clarified butter.
So it's mostly milk fat. So again, it's an oil or fat. So it'll have a much higher smoke point. So it'll allow the temperature to get very hot.
Yes. You can always use oil in this as well, if people want to use it. But I use ghee because I like ghee personally. So,
well, and what surprised me was that so clarified. So if you just use butter, because butter is a mixture of oil and water together, yes, right? Yeah. Then the temperature, the smoke point of butter actually gets much lower. It's about 175. But when you clarify the butter, you are removing a lot more of the water, and the temperature goes way up. It goes to about 230 degrees Celsius. So you can get much hotter with the clarified butter and the ghee than you can with just regular butter.
Does clarified mean taking out the water?
Yes. So you melt the butter, and then you raise the temperature, and you'll boil when you melt the butter, the water and the fat separate each other, and you can then take off the fat, and that's the clarified butter.
So I'm going to start the tempering now. First of all, I have mixed the yogurt and rice. I have to put salt on it. I usually put salt away at this time. I'm using pink salt, but you can always use any salt, right? And I've heated up the tempering. For the tempering, I have heated up the ghee. So first you put in the temperature is right because the mustard seeds have started spluttering.
And so the interesting thing about that sputtering is that's the any sort of a little bit of water in the mustard seeds starts to boil off. Ooh, and it's getting a little. Is that steam or smoke?
No, this is the smoke.
Okay.
It's the ghee. Because the spluttering, because of the ghee coming out and the ghee going on the burner.
I see. Okay.
So now this is the udad dal which I have put in. I have lowered my the flame, the temperature, because it was getting too hot. I'm going to wait for it to little brown, the mustard seeds. I mean, sorry, the udad dal.
And so that browning reaction is like a caramelization, and you see that on meat as well. And it's a reaction between the proteins and the starches that are in any of the food. But that only happens at these higher temperatures. You can't brown something using boiling water, for example.
The ginger slices. And I'm going to put the curry leaves. I don't want to even burn everything, so that's going a bit slow. This is going to.
You're doing great. And if you've got questions, so I already see a question in chat.
I haven't put the red chili. Usually red chili is put, a dry red chili you can put in this, or green chili, whatever, but I don't want to put that.
Okay.
So that's why I'm using a little bit of ginger to make it a little, it's not spicy, but little tasty, because the ginger gives a very good taste and it is very good for digestion. Ginger.
A question about caramelization. You say it's the proteins and the starches interacting. How do they interact, and how does that affect the taste or the nutrition?
Oh, so the caramelization is one thing, and that's basically the starches and sugars caramelizing and changing their configuration, and they get a little brown. So, but then the protein and the starch interact, and that gets you a little the browning reaction, the so-called Maillard reaction, and that has to do with that you're making these flavor molecules. So, and there's all sorts of different flavor molecules, and you get these different combinations of starch and protein to make, or amino acids and sugars to make these flavor molecules that you get when you have a nice browned piece of meat, or even like caramelized onions or something like that.
Finished. I have put in the tempering in the yogurt and rice. You just pour it in and you just garnish it with some coriander. That's it.
Yeah.
You're done. Now this is.
So we might want to. Can we slow down for a minute, Purvi?
Okay.
Or do you have to move on to the next step?
For the next step for the paneer, because this has started boiling, so we can do it if we want to.
Why don't we slow down, because we've got a few questions in chat that I think we want to follow up.
Okay.
So Fiona's got a couple of questions here. So if you've got questions about what we've said already, please put them in chat, and so Fiona's got a couple of questions. I don't know much, Fiona, about organic solubility. Organic chemistry is not what I do know is that so some things are soluble in water, and some things are soluble in oil, right? And so certainly the oil solubility, I know how that's related to the organic solubility, is important, and many of the flavor molecules that are in the spices are these are not these simple molecules like sodium, right? Sodium chloride, like salt, right? They're more complicated, longer chain molecules, and they're more likely to be soluble in oil rather than water. So yes, that's another thing, another factor that needs to be accounted for. But no matter what, things become more soluble when the temperature goes up. And then Purvi, there's a question in chat about how to make ghee. So
Oh, yeah. Ghee, I used to see because
maybe
I was.
can you come back to your main camera?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, no problem.
Yeah. So you can make ghee at home. I used to make it before. I got this from India. So when I was there, but when I was, you can get the butter, unsalted butter. You know, the sticks that you get, just get it in bulk or whatever, 4 sticks, 2 sticks, whatever, and just keep it on a slow boil. Just melt it and let it boil slowly. At one point, you will see that the water, I mean, you'll see some brown, not brown, the white, the milk kind of will separate. The cream or the milk will start separating, and the melted butter will become almost transparent. It becomes like transparent. So that is the time you will see some brown things on the bottom of the pot. So that is the time you should just shut it off and sieve it, and that's the ghee. You can make the butter, but that is a shortcut, right? The butter is ready, but in India, people make it very at home. It's like you take you boil the milk that you get from the dairy every day, then you boil it, then the malai or the what is it called, the cream which is on the top, you store it, then you have to store it for a few days, you collect it, then boil it, and then the ghee will happen. That's a different process completely. This is an easier way. Get butter and just boil it.
So just as from a science perspective, what I'm hearing, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to share my screen. So one of the things to understand about milk and milk products is they're an emulsion of fats and water, right? So normally fat and water, or oil and water don't mix. So when I say fat, I'm talking about not only the solid fat that we're thinking about, but also any oils. Oils are also they're made up of fatty molecules. And they don't mix, right? You try and mix oil and water and they separate immediately. Well, in milk, Mother Nature has been very clever, and she's found a way to get these very small globules of fat to stay in the emulsion of the milk and not separate out. But then we've got we come along and want to process that and make different things with it. And so one of the ways to do that is so even in butter is also an emulsion of water and fat. It's what's referred to as an inverted emulsion, but that's not important. But it's a combination of water and fat. And by cooking it the way Purvi was describing, you're boiling off the water. And again, as you boil off that water is only at 100 degrees Celsius. So you keep the milk boils, the fat boils at 100 degrees Celsius. And then, and it's not until all the water goes away that the temperature of the fat continues to go up. And that's when you start getting these browning reactions. And that's why what Purvi is saying is that when you start seeing the browning, you're done. And you take it off the stove because you're going up above. That's an indication that the temperature is going even higher. Right. So just as an example of this is a microscopic picture of a sample of milk under the microscope, and you can see that there are all these little fat globules that are microns. They're thousandth of a millimeter. A millimeter is about as thick as your thumbnail, about the thickness of your thumbnail. So they're much smaller than that. So they're about a thousandth of that. These little fat globules dissolved in the milk water. Let's see, other questions in chat that we had. I think we had at least one other, and I've lost the chat. Here we go. Get rid of that. Go away.
Rachel has asked a question about if the masala box, if the masalas in the masala box vary as per the region. And yes, the answer is yes. I use these kind of masalas. People may use, something like, probably they will use whole spices in the box. Sometimes they use whole spices, right? Like the maize, or the flour. The flour kind of spice, the whole spices. They put elaichi in it. That is the green. I forget the name of the thing. So they have people. The way you cook is the way the spices that you use every day are usually put in the masala box, right? Not I use only mostly these ones. I forgot to mention about the hing, which was which should have been going in the tempering of the yogurt rice, but hing is also a part of it. The asafoetida is also a part of the cooking because it reduces gas. It is when things are it's just good for digestion. Hing, the asafoetida. So everybody has different kind of spices, but usually the turmeric, the red chili, I would say, and the cumin, especially, I think usually people will always, and the mustard seeds, usually anywhere in India, I think they will be using these spices. Yes, the cardamom. Yeah, the cardamom is the green elaichi, which I'm saying. People use that. They put the cinnamon also in the box.
So
I don't. I use it only when there are special dishes. That is a time I do this masala box like everyday use kind of thing.
Right. Charlie asks, why does the flavor molecules go away when you burn foods?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Let me get to that in a minute because I want to follow up on the masala box question. So Nahid has a sort of his list in chat. What does masala mean? If you translate the word into English.
Masala is, I would say masala is a mix of spices. That's the only thing that I would say.
It's a spice box. Is that it? It is
a spice box.
Oh, so when I order masala chicken, I'm getting spiced chicken.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just the way it is also cooked.
Chicken wings.
Yeah.
Like buffalo wings, right?
Yes. So these basically
flavorful. Oh, okay. Nice. Thank you, Purvi.
Masala. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. I just wanted to. Okay. Charlie's question about burning. Yeah. So, and I didn't fully understand the difference between browning and charring until I started teaching this physics of food course, and then I had to go learn some things, right? Because the best way to learn something is to go and try to teach a course on it, right? Because then suddenly you're in front of 30 people and you've got to know what you're talking about, and so the browning reaction is combining the protein and the starch molecules, the amino acid and the starch molecules, and making these flavor molecules. Burning is is actually going. You've got it so hot that it's actually oxidizing, and you're burning the molecules, and you're getting the char is actually just carbon. So you've gotten rid of all these these wonderfully, if you know anything about amino acids and proteins, there and starches, there are these wonderfully complicated long chain molecules that form all sorts of different structures, and then you throw them into the fire and they just burn, and you end up with carbon dioxide, water, and some leftover carbon, and that's what the charring is all about. So when you burn the food, you've literally oxidized it. You've blown away all these molecules. It's all over. And so, my interestingly enough, my mother used to love, what she loved was charred a steak charred on the outside and raw on the inside. Right. So, which I know, I'm sorry to describe that in front of you, Purvi, but as a vegetarian, it's probably like, oh my God, why would you do that? But that's what my mother loved for the way she takes her steak was barely heated on the inside and just charred on the outside. So, all right. Any other questions? Solid food enhancers, they add taste. Okay. Thank you, Nahid. Color, yes. So right. I don't think I fully appreciated that. The number of spices, or the role of spices in the presentation of food and how they make them look colorful. All right. Should we go on to the paneer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need to prep anything, or are you like almost there?
I'm just going to keep the camera on now.
Because I had one or two things to say about that I have.
Yeah, why don't you say it, and it's
Okay.
The camera is, I'll let you know as soon as it is.
Okay, so I'm gonna spotlight my own camera, and I should have set this up beforehand. I'm gonna take a little bit of milk that I had myself, and just pour a test tube of milk. Whoops, there's my camera. A little tube of milk. I'm gonna pour some of that off. There we go. And what I want to add to that, I'm going to put it in a little holder I have here. I was going to add some lime juice, which is what Purvi uses in her recipe. But I decided I didn't want to do that because it's not clear. And so I'm going to add some vinegar, which will have the same effect. And so this is, you don't have to take my word for it that this is vinegar. I can at least show that it's acidic because I have these lovely pH strips that I'm going to dip into here. And you notice that the top of that is green, kind of a blue-green. I'm going to dip it into here, and it's going to change color. And there we go. And so now you see that top one is turned orange, and on the pH strip container, I have this nice color chart, and I can compare that, and that's got a pH of about 2. A typical pH for water, and that tells you how much dissolved hydrogen ions there are, how much the water has disassociated. A typical pH for water is about 7. And so in acetic acid, which is vinegar, or in citric acid, which would be lime juice or lemon juice or even orange juice, you can get down to pHs of 2 or 3. You can have a lot of that acid in there. And so I'm going to try and heat this up a little bit. Oh, shoot. Made a mess. And I'm going to pour, I'm going to hope this works. I'm going to pour the vinegar into the milk. And I can start to see, I think you can start to see, if you see on the side there, Nope, it's not as obvious as I thought it would be. Oh, because I shook it up. So I can start to see the top here is, I'm going to turn this light off. Let's see what happens there. Ah, nope. I tested this before and I could see it starting to separate, but it's not separating as well. It's not as obvious on the camera. What I start to see, and maybe I'll just leave that here, is I start to see some curds forming in the bottom of the test tube and some clear water near the top of the test tube. In fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour off some of the water at the top. Nope, it's still not as clear as I would like it. It still looks pretty milky, but you'll have to take my word for it that we now have curdled milk, which is normally you just throw out, but really what you can do with that is make cheese, right? And so by adding a little bit of acid to the milk, you can make the cheese. Now the thing that Purvi is doing is going to be heating up the milk to accentuate the reaction. I poured a lot of vinegar in there. That whatever that is going to taste awful. It's going to taste like vinegar, right? But if you heat it up, you can pour just a little bit of acid in there, and in this case, I think Purvi, you're going to use lime juice or lemon juice.
I'm going to start with the paneer now because it has already boiled quite a bit.
Okay, great.
So now once it comes to a boil, I want to put in the lime juice, and I put in a little bit of yogurt in it just to make it soft. The reaction is going to be almost immediate, I think, if I don't mess it up like this.
Oh, I see. You go for the fresh limes.
Yes.
Okay. I cheated. I buy the stuff in the bottle.
It's already happening now. You can see the difference.
Oh yeah.
You can see the difference already.
Yes. Your demonstration is much better than mine.
So I've put it on a small boil anyway. So I don't think I want to put in more than this lime right now.
So
put in more if I want to, but I don't want to. And then I'm going to put in the yogurt, right? I forgot about the yogurt. I'm just going to put in a bit of yogurt in it. This is only to make it a bit soft. That's what I've. And you can see that it is already curdled. You can see I don't know if you can see the curdling part already.
Yep. So you've separated out the milk fat. So again, milk is a combination of fat and water. That's an emulsion. And what's happened is you've broken the emulsion.
Yes. So it's
and you do that. So for those who are aware, the there's some proteins in milk that actually act as the emulsifier. So they keep the milk fat and the milk to separated from each other. The milk fat, the little milk fat globules separated from each other, and keep that emulsion from breaking, so called. That is, from the milk fat sort of separating from the water and forming large clumps.
So
When
I'm
you
going to now put in, Dr. Gross, I'm just going to put in some coriander leaves in this. I'm sorry to cut you off like that.
Yep, great.
But I'm going to put in some coriander leaves because you don't have to put in. You can also put in mint. I don't have mint today, so I'm just going to put in some coriander for the taste of it. And I'm just going to now sieve it, and that's it. So, and
Okay.
then let it rest for a while. And I do the shortcut way. People use cheesecloth and whatever. I just use a sieve. So I'm just going to use this kind of a thing down, and I can just pour it out right now like that. And you'll see the way which, this is the way, right, which is coming on the water, which is that is full of protein. People say you can use it to make rotis, to instead of water, to make parathas or rotis or whatever. They can use this as well. People use this also for soups. I think that's what I read yesterday. Soups and for base, basically, instead of a vegetable stock.
Yeah, you've got lots of so there's different types. There's all different types of proteins in milk.
Yeah.
So some of the proteins are embedded in the fat globules, and they keep the fat globules apart. Those are the casein proteins. The whey proteins are stay with the water.
Yeah.
And so if you want to, instead of using just plain water to make your bread,
Yeah.
or to cook things in, you can use the whey water that you've got, and you don't waste anything, right? And you also know that it's when you don't have I'm thinking historically now, Purvi, and you can correct me, but if you don't have access to good clean drinking water,
Yeah.
using this whey water to cook with can allow you to make a whole lot of things. So historically, there's all these different ways that we have historically of making, of purifying our water. So in Europe, we'd make beer, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that would purify the water because of the beer making process, and the alcohol would kill off all the bad things. But another way is you get it from the cow. You know that the cow isn't going to have not going to have any parasites unless the cow's sick. So
basically you just sieve it and you press it. I'm just not using the cloth. Of course, this paneer is also going to be just as good. It may not be like very tight and block-like, which you get in the stores, but it will be just as good. So I prefer using this, and I will use everything, and you just let it cool down, and it comes off very easily from the sieve also, but you have to really press it so that all the water comes out, the whey comes out, basically.
Right.
So, and if you after some maybe 10 minutes, if you just turn it, it's just going to come out as a block, right? And this is it. This is the way. That is the way I make it, at least at home.
So do you think with the cheesecloth, you might be able to get more of the water out?
Maybe, yes. If you press it really hard and you do it for hours, and yeah, maybe. But this, I think, for me, this works quite well.
Right. And you've
Because
got some delicious, delicious, cheese, and you're good to go.
yeah, that's it. And this is something I used to make peas and paneer vegetable or whatever at home, and it's very it's easy. So I don't even know what people use in the you know the the shop made paneer, the kind of preservatives and whatever.
Right.
So I prefer these. And these are actually on their own also very good. If you put in the mint and the coriander and a little bit of salt on the top of it, you can just have it like that.
Right. So I'm hungry now. I think the interesting thing is all the different ways that different cultures have of making cheese. So the in like my Italian heritage, we use a lot of mozzarella, right? And that's more or less the same process, except what you add is you add this enzyme called rennet. And oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for reminding me of that. Yeah, this is where curds and whey come from, right? It's probably what Little Miss Muffet was eating was some yogurt variety, where so again, different ways of separating out the milk fat from the water, and so in yogurt you get some bacteria to do the job for you, generating, I believe, some lactic acid. But again, the bacteria, it's not the bacteria itself that separates the milk. It's the acid that they generate when they eat the some of the fat, and then that acid then curdles the milk. You get the curds and whey together, and you can just eat that. I mean, there's no reason why not to eat it, right? As long as you're confident that the bacteria aren't harmful and you're using the right bacteria. So mozzarella is it's an enzyme that you get from cows that you use to make to curdle the milk, and then from that you have to work it to get it smooth. So I don't know if people work paneer to smooth it out some, but the mozzarella you work to get it smooth and get it tight. In Eastern cultures, I learned this from my students, many of whom are from Asia, from China, and they use ginger, and again, ginger has an enzyme that will curdle the milk, and they make a pudding with it. So that's an interesting thing. You can make cheese from the whey. So I don't know what happens with ricotta. So do you know Purvi, do you know this question that Rachel has?
What is the question?
So the question is about tofu.
How does this process translate to making tofu? Tofu is made from soya, right?
Yeah.
Soya beans. So that is a different process, I think. But that is not milk. It's a bean kind of liquid, right? So I don't know what they put in it, but I think they also press like the paneer. I think they do all that as well.
Oh, interesting. So they also use vinegar. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I'd have to look that up. I think the vinegar. I think the change in pH is changing the structure of the proteins that are in the food, and so you're adding things like vinegar and lemon juice not only to provide flavor, but they also then can change the protein. So
I also think, Dr. Gross, that people use vinegar. People use vinegar even for paneer sometimes.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that is cheaper than fresh limes.
Right. And
So-
I was using vinegar as a generic acid. So vinegar
Exactly.
or lime.
So
Yeah.
this is something, maybe tofu also uses it, but I'm sure before that, maybe they were not using tofu. They were not using vinegar. Maybe
Right.
they were using something else. Because of all this commercialization and everything to just make it easier, maybe they are using vinegar. I have no clue, but I
Yeah.
would want to know that, how they started making, like
Right.
initially, when the vinegar was not there, how did they do it?
Right.
I think
And again, Fiona, I don't know enough about ricotta. It's going to be a similar. I'm imagining it's going to be a similar process, but I don't know enough about the ricotta making process to be able to speak knowledgeably about it. Sorry. But yeah, so I think the commercialization, the production
yes.
level, like, also gets interesting because they're like, what do I need to do to get the thing in bulk, right, in massive quantities, and not have to like go through and squeeze a whole bunch of limes. Right.
Yes, and also it is sure that vinegar will do it. Sometimes with lime, it will happen, but if something goes wrong, because once I had made a mess, I had some not old milk, but I had used that carton milk, which I used the organic milk, and it was a few days old. It was not very fresh.
Uh-huh.
And, it just wouldn't curdle. I put in so much lime, so much vinegar, it wouldn't curdle.
Okay.
So then I realized that maybe the milk has to be really fresh. Not fresh, but at least like a few days old, like in a year at least, from the box. Then it works out. But it can happen that it doesn't curdle even after you put in vinegar.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So then there's something wrong either with the milk, which has gone bad maybe. I don't know what has happened, but something went wrong.
Yeah, that's strange because the way milk goes bad is it gets bacteria in it, and the bacteria generate acids, and then it starts to clump up because you've started making the cheese, right? But you've started generating the acid has broken things down. So I don't know what whether the older,
I don't know. I use the organic. What's this called? Or organic Valley whole milk. I use this one. So I don't know what went wrong after a few days. Maybe the milk went bad, or maybe the bacteria, something happened to the bacteria. I have no clue. Because they do write on the box that freshest tasting within 7 days of opening. So maybe if I did it on the 10th day, I don't know if the paneer didn't work. I don't know.
Queen, I think you could. I'm not sure I would. Okay. So, although I think there are if you've got experience at it, there are ways of using older milk or letting milk go bad on purpose in some ways. Oh, that's a good question.
What question are you responding to?
Oh, so I was responding to Quinn's, and then I was reading Zambi's. Oh, we've got lots of questions coming in. Okay. So Quinn, I have some soy milk here. I think you can use soy milk. And since it failed, we failed at seeing what was going on. Oh, I've carefully labeled my my test tube. So there's a nice S on there for soy milk. And I always love doing these classes in my kitchen because then I can just reach up and find the stuff that I need. So I've got some vinegar. I'm going to throw this out so we can try and do this live and see at least demonstrate. Now, you know, what you'd want to do when you were doing a science experiment is I'd want to try this on like a lot. I'd want to try a series. So like I'd want to heat the soy milk up to different temperatures. I'd want to use different concentrations of vinegar in there. But for just for quick and dirty, I'm just going to throw this in. Well, I certainly see something interesting happening.
Could you show it to the camera?
I can try. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's let's oh, I got it. I am spotlit. I'm trying to, let's see. Okay, there I am. So I think, yeah, you can start to see the top there where the water has separated out on the sides. Let's see if I can get it back. This camera automatically does autofocusing. And so I don't know why it's not focusing on my hand. There we go. All right. I think you can see right at the top here. Actually, it's better when I get this is where the light is important, right? And so I'm gonna remove there. All right. So this is the soy milk now, and I certainly can see that it started to separate out, and it's hard to see on the camera. We need a better something better than my $50 webcam to be able to project this because of the white light. There you can see that structuring.
We can see it
a little bit better. Yeah. Great. Thanks for asking that, Quinn. I've actually I don't know why it's taken me so long. I didn't know what the answer was. I always thought that I could try it, and it's never been. I've never been in the spot where I was thinking about it and then tried it. So now what I'd like to do is have a sequence of like how much vinegar does it take? Does it take the same amount? Does it take a different amount? Do you need to heat it? Is heating it important? Those sorts of things. So that would be that's when the science happens, right? When you start to quantify this, and then you can start to make then you can start to think about how to make it commercially, right? Because then you know what the conditions are under which it would happen. So, and Rachel, great question. This could be actually the thing you were running into, Purvi, is homogenized milk is they take the so I don't know what kind of milk you typically use. Do you use like regular homogenized milk that you get off
This
Yeah.
this one is whole milk vitamin ultra pasteurized grade A.
Yeah, right. Okay, and then it's probably also homogenized, right?
It doesn't say homogenized anywhere.
Okay. So in homogenized milk, what they do is they take the milk from the cow. First off,
it says keep refrigerated and homogenized.
okay. The milk from the cow comes out, and it's got a whole a series of different size fat globules in there. The cream, the largest fat globules will rise to the top, and you just skim that off, and then you have a different product, right? A cream product. But then the raw milk will have fat globules of all different sizes. And to keep those from separating out, they put it through a process called homogenizing, where they basically squirt it through very small holes that break up the big fat globules into smaller fat globules. And so it becomes more challenging then to do the process that Purvi is showing you, though clearly it works, right? When you did it, so you can just get it from regular milk. It probably is. It's probably both easier to do this, but then more complicated to work with raw milk. And there's lots of things you got to worry about in terms of safety and concerns around using raw milk or non-homogenized or certainly non-pasteurized milk. Differently, so you need to look up the recipes first. Let's see. I'm trying to Fiona. Okay.
So, Dr.
Okay.
Gross, I have a question. So,
Oh yeah.
are you saying that ultra pasteurized is not good for health?
I don't know about the pasteurization. I know that I've stayed away when I've tried to do this for experiments with my students. I've stayed away from the pasteurized. I definitely want it pasteurized because that kills all the bad bacteria, and I don't know what the ultra pasteurized does.
Okay.
I don't know and I also don't know if ultra pasteurized is like new and improved, right? Right.
I won't be surprised if ultra pasteurized is killing all the bacteria. That's why maybe after a few days, not all, it's more of the bacteria, so that I could not make the paneer after a few days because of the.
Well, I don't think the bacteria are as important for making the paneer in this process. I think they're. Okay. I think you don't want them, right? Because then they're. But so but there. This is the kind of where my question about tofu came from, since tofu is made from soy milk. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah. So it may be that then you take this, you run it through a sieve like Purvi does. So you take the soy milk that's really starting to separate now, and you run it through some cheesecloth or a sieve, and you get tofu curds out of that too. So, but I'm not. But I'm not as knowledgeable about that as I would like to be able to talk about it. All right. I think so. So, Purvi, do you have any last?
I want to just show. I think it says cooled off the paneer.
Oh yeah.
If I can just do that now. Hold
on. Now I have to find you again. Okay. Let's spotlight you again.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
You see this on the top maybe.
Yep.
So I think this is cooled down quite a bit. So I'm just going to see if it comes down properly on the plate. It's done.
Nice.
It just comes out like that, and you can cut it. Of course, it should have been a bit thicker, but you can see that it is.
Yeah, looks delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done. And then you can just fry it, saute, like fry it on a pan with a little bit of oil if you want, put in a little bit of salt, whatever, masala, like, chaat masala. We have these masalas, so it's done, finished.
And can we put both dishes in the shot at the same time?
Yes.
There we go. All right. So yogurt rice with tempered spices and some spiced paneer. So
Great. Well, thank you, Nick and Purvi. This has been a incredible learning experience for me, and I think probably for the 50 people who were here as well. There's so many questions in the chat that we could probably do a whole semester of this just to answering those questions. So thank you very much, and thank you also to everybody who came. It was great to have so many of you here, and from a number of different places around the world. And before we leave, I wanted to let everybody know that about the next Let's Learn class, which is a week from today. It's a very different kind of class. It's not a cooking class. It's a class on the great Bangla poets, the poets of the Bengali areas of India and Bangladesh. And it's going to be taught by a longtime educator named Qazi Abdur Rahman. And he's going to be teaching it with students in his high school where he teaches in Dakar. And they're going to lead us on a discovery of 5 of the greatest poets, Bangla poets of all time. And what they're going to do, it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun because he'll give background on the poet and on the historical period. And then they'll read his students will read a poem from the poet in Bengali, in the language that they were written in. And then us, the participants in the class, will read English translations that he's providing, and then we'll discuss them. And we're going to do that for 5 poets. So it's next Saturday, October 1st, and Eastern US time it starts at 10 a.m. and goes to 11:30. It's a little earlier, but that's because it's based in Dakar, where it will be 8 o'clock at night when the class starts. Dhaka. So I think we have a few more minutes if Purvi or Nick or anybody wants to speak up and with a final comment.
Well, so first I want to thank Purvi for I think this is your first Let's Learn class. So thank you so much
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to all the people who came and made the time to come in from wherever they are. So yeah,
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
There was one question. I don't know. Fiona had asked about links from your PowerPoint, Nick. I'm putting them in the chat. I don't know if that's possible.
So yes, I can put some links. I was going to share my presentation or send it to let's see, the important links. I think this is the important link that we want to share. This is actually and Purvi, maybe you can say more about the Tarladala
What?
Website.
Oh, Tarla Dalal. Oh yeah.
Okay. I see. I pronounced it so badly. I'm sorry.
So she is known as I would say, the Julia Child of India, and she does these amazing vegetarian. So she makes these amazing. She used to make. She died 7, 8, 10 years back, but she was one of the best, and people still use her books. She was very good, and if you don't get a good recipe, you should just go to her book. Just refer her to this website or the book that she has, and you'll get anything that you cook from that book is fantastic.
Okay, great.
Try it. And it's the good thing is that it's not just Indian recipes; they are Western recipes as well. So anything vegetarian is there.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you all, and we'll put everybody here. I hope to see you again next week if that interests you at all. And there's many other Let's Learn free classes on Zoom coming up for the rest of the semester. So you can go to the Lloyd International Honors College page and then click on the Let's Learn site, and you'll get all that information. Thank you so much again. And I'm very hungry now, so I'm going to You stimulated my appetite.
I wanted to answer one to Emma. Emma is saying if there are any classes which explore food history or the science of food at UNCG. I don't think so. I don't think there are any classes of food history in at UNCG or the science of food. That is something Dr. Ali could, answer better.
Yeah. Well,
I don't.
He had to step away, but I'll make sure that question gets to
Yes.
him.
Yes.
So he might want to, given how much interest there was in this, he might
Yes.
very well want to do that.
Wonderful, because I have loved this so much. It was a wonderful combination of food and science and looking at amino acids and proteins. That is my favorite part of science. So I absolutely loved this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Shia, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was actually gonna talk about how Emma, there actually is it's an anthropology class, and I'm an anthropology major, so I was looking at those. It's called Food and Culture in the Global Context. So it's not a history class per se, but it does explore, how food ties into culture, which I also think is very interesting. So
Wonderful.
Who
Thank
does
you
this?
so much.
Who does this class? Shia, can you tell me who is the person?
yeah, I'm not quite sure who teaches the class. I just saw it on the anthropology course catalog, so it is
okay.
offered some semesters.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the professor though. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank-
as I was saying, so I think we're done. If anybody's if people had to log off, so and I'm host, so if you want to go have lunch, Dan, that's fine. But we can take a few more questions too.
Of course. Yeah.
And yeah, there's lots of different ways to approach food, right? So you can use food as a lens to look at all these different approaches. So, all right, great. All right. Any last questions? Emma, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Hey, so I had a quick question about kind of like with milk and yogurt. I was kind of saying like, what kind of like the difference in the process of like creating milk and yogurt? Because I know like, wow, there's like curdling within cheese, but I feel like it kind of feels a bit similar to the process of maybe making yogurt.
You want to take that, or you want me to take it, Purvi?
I don't think you saying the process of paneer is a lot like yogurt. That's what is that the question?
It was more like it's more like cheese in like the process of making cheese and yogurt in general. Like what's kind of like the difference between the two? Like I know that like I think like yogurt used to feel like I know like cheese uses like acidic to make the substance for cheese. And if I'm not incorrect, that's what kind of like yogurt kind of does a bit the same.
No, I think the yogurt has a different process. It has a few bacterias, I think, which make the yogurt from the milk. I would say is that Dr. Gross?
Yeah, what is the same, Sebastian, is that the bacteria culture that you're using does make the it creates an acid, which again then starts to break the milk apart. What I don't fully understand, and I'd like to know more about, is why I think this is because it happens at the microscopic level, but why doesn't the yogurt then separate? Why don't you get water, the whey water, out of the yogurt? I think I think it curdles the milk and captures the water somehow. But it is it's because the bacteria makes an acid that you get that curdling effect and you get the thickening of the yogurt. Again, I don't understand why the whey water doesn't come off.
Yeah, because even the yogurt, the starter for the yogurt, like how I make yogurt at home, I could make it from I could take a yogurt from a commercial, like, from somebody, and put that little yogurt into the boiled milk, and then you get the yogurt. But this is yeah, I think Dr. Gross is saying is correct. It is the acidification, because even lime has acids and also vinegar. So it's the acid which sort of breaks the, the water and the milk, and probably the yogurt which I put in the boiled milk to make the yogurt, like the starter. That the starter is the yogurt that I use to make the yogurt. So that probably binds it. Something is there, because it doesn't
Well,
break.
I think what you're putting in is the bacteria that's in that yogurt sample. So you're seeding that bacteria, kind of like a sourdough starter. At the same, with the sourdough starter has the yeast already in it, and then that yeast then grows and does its thing.
Yeah, it's a starter kind of thing, and these kind of starters are like home. Usually if my mother's the starter that we use to make yogurt at home goes bad, or if the yogurt, which at the end of the day is becoming very sour, or it's basically it is spoiling, then my mother will go to some relative place who have a good yogurt and get that yogurt to make the yogurt at our place. It's like a starter. It's very important from where you get the starter. That little yogurt for making the yogurt. Yes, Dr. Seidman, you're saying something?
No, I was just going to say goodbye.
Oh,
Okay.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, so it was a really amazing presentation on like us exploring on like food and like how food the process of food works, and as well like kind of like as well goes goes through the logic of food, and like more deeper into the chemistry of food. So yeah, it was a really amazing presentation.
Good. I'm glad you could come.
I see. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and Mayuri's gone. Okay, great. So it's just you and me. Good job.
Oh my God. Was it okay?
It was great.
I think I just forgot about the asafoetida. We didn't talk about that part. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Not so much.
About what? The acidity?
No, the asafoetida. The hing that I was supposed to put.
There's no required curriculum here, right? So
Okay, so it wasn't bad.
And I think we got a lot of good feedback, so I think it was fine.
Okay then. Thank you so much, Dr. Gross.
All right, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Same. You've been very patient with me. You've been very patient with me.
Okay, well, I've learned a lot, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Good luck with the semester.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.